Hi everyone, my name is Est-Marie and with me today I have Palesa and Malebo from our firm, and today we are going to talk about cannabis.
Hi everyone, thank you for having me, Est-Marie. Interesting topic we're having today, so yeah, let's just
Yes,
get on.
sometimes a controversial topic.
Indeed.
So, just as a starting point, cannabis are often referred to as dacha or marijuana, for those of you that don't know. We received a question from an anonymous person, and I'm going to read the question and then maybe we can delve a bit into the queries that this mother has about her son. She says, "Hi, I recently found out that my 16-year-old son is smoking weed. Drugs have always been a big no-no in our house, so this has been a bit of a shock. I would like to have a conversation with him about it, but wanted to get my facts straight first. I know that it is now legal in South Africa, but was wondering whether it is also legal for minors. He also has a part-time job, and I'm worried about what the consequences could be if he gets drug tested at work. In other words, could him smoking weed lead to him either getting arrested or fired? Your advice is appreciated." So, Palesa, maybe we should just start off with what is the current legal position regarding cannabis in South Africa?
Well, Est-Marie, before we even look at the current position, we can also take it back to the legal position back then. So, cannabis in South Africa has been illegal. The use, the possession, the sale, the dealing, and this was in terms of the Drugs and Drugs Trafficking Act, and it criminalized the use of cannabis. Now, the position changed after the Constitutional Court in Prince, whereby the court assessed this whole criminalization of the use of cannabis. And the court actually came to a conclusion that this section 4B, section 5B, they're actually infringing on the right to privacy. So, as it stands, the use of cannabis, the possession of cannabis by an adult, and this was in the Prince case, it is now legal, but there are conditions. It is legal in private use and for personal consumption. Another thing that the court has legalized is the cultivation. Cultivation meaning, the crop growing of cannabis in your little garden at home. That also has been legalized, also for private use and also for personal consumption. Now, that is the legal position, the current legal position in terms of the Constitutional Court in Prince. Just bear in mind that this legalization, it was only in respect of adults, not for minor children. Now, the position has now also changed, and the recent Constitutional Court, in which the judgment was handed down in September 29 September 2022, whereby the court now also looked into Section B and said, but oh no, hold on, the Prince case was only in relation to adults. What about the children? What about the minors? And the court came to a conclusion that how is it that we treat minors as criminals and we penalize them, whereas the adults who are supposed to be the ones penalized more than the children? How is it that we are allowing that? That's when the court now came to a conclusion that the Prince case, they actually extended the principle in the Prince case only in relation to children. Therefore, the Constitutional Court here doesn't actually encourage the use of cannabis by minors, but it now states that a minor who's found in possession or who has been found to using cannabis cannot now be detained, cannot be arrested, prosecuted, or alternatively taken for diversion program. So that is the current position as it stands. I know it's exciting for a lot of people. I don't know about minors. It's kind of like a controversial topic, and I know parents out there are kind of like, oh, what is happening here?
Yes.
But unfortunately, that is the position.
Well, I think the interesting thing is the law is always evolving to keep up with the standards of society.
Changing
And our
times.
standards keep
Mm.
changing, our morals keep
Mm.
changing. Because the interesting thing about Prince is a few years ago he tried to get admitted as an attorney, and he's a Rastafarian.
Indeed.
And the court found that he was not a fit and proper person to be an attorney because of the fact that he's a Rastafarian and smoking weed.
Exactly.
And now that very same Mr. Prince has made history by decriminalizing personal use of marijuana or cannabis, essentially. And now we're moving towards the point where the court has found, but minors can also not be arrested for the use of or possession of cannabis. So the law is always evolving in trying to keep up with the times and the latest standards of society. So I guess that answers her first question, that her child would not be able, they won't be able to arrest the child for using weed, as she put it. Now her second question is, he's got a part-time job. Can he get fired for smoking weed?
Oh, interesting question that is. There is a recent labor court judgment. Now, this judgment now places us in a bit of a predicament with regards to the current position of cannabis. So what now happened in this case, the employee was found guilty of contravening an alcohol and substance policy of the employer. So what happened, she is a constant user of cannabis. She alleged that medically, so it assisted her, and she used it for recreational purposes. The court found that her dismissal was actually fair. Now, looking at this, the court in fact commented that the Constitutional Court in France does not protect employees who are facing disciplinary actions or dismissal with regards to the use of cannabis, or testing positive rather, because this specific employee, she tested positive and she used it in her private space. She did not contravene the current position. She used it in her private space. However, cannabis, it stays longer in your system. So if you smoke it in the weekend and you come to work on Monday, it is still in your system. Now the court went to say it is unfortunate that the Prince Court does not offer protection in such circumstances, and it should be noted that in every workplace there are rules and regulations, and if there is such a policy in your workplace, unfortunately you are not protected. You are facing serious dismissal, disciplinary actions against you. So it is unfortunate, and to answer her question, yes, her child may be faced with a dismissal, and which dismissal can be fair in the circumstances.
Well, would he only be dismissed if his workplace has a policy against the use of cannabis?
Indeed.
What if they don't have a policy against the use of cannabis, then that would not be grounds for a dismissal?
I would believe so. I would believe so, because in this instance there was a policy, and it was a zero tolerance policy. I think the court also alluded to the fact that if you have sufficient grounds to prove that your use of cannabis is in connection with a medical reason, I think in those grounds you can simply get away with a dismissal. However, in this case, the employee did not have sufficient proof that she needed or was using it for a medical reason. So in this instance, I would argue, where there is no policy, I would say take your chances, because the position is that you can use it and in your space. Because in this specific case, it was common cause that the employee was not in possession of the cannabis at work or was using it at work. It was also not common cause that she was impaired, or there was a suspicion that she was impaired in performing her normal duties. So in that regard, I think if it wasn't for this policy, I think she was going to get away with it.
So yeah, I think the long and the short is the use and possession of cannabis in your, for personal use is legal in South Africa. You cannot be arrested, but you can be fired for it, even if you're not using it at work. Exactly. If you're just testing positive for it, you can be dismissed at work if your employer has a policy against the use or positive testing of cannabis or other drugs.
Yeah. One interesting thing, the Constitutional Court, or the court in this labor matter, it also reiterated that there is some sort of contradiction here. If an individual smokes or uses cannabis in her private space, it's now gonna overlap. Yes. Because if you use it the previous night in your private space and you come to work and you test positive, there is some sort of an overlap there, because at the time you were using it, you were using it legally, so rightfully so. And then now you come to the workplace, it's a different thing. That now you have to test, and it is positive. And the court also said it is also unfortunate that the test that we use, they do not actually assess the degree of impairments that the cannabis is. The only thing that they look at is the fact that you tested positive. And the employee went in so far to argue that there's a difference between alcohol and cannabis, and maybe there should be that separation in the policy, that there should be the standard for alcohol users and there should be standard for this cannabis. Because with the alcohol users, if a person is under the substance, you can even see them by their action, with the blurred speech, with the bloodshot red eye. With a person using cannabis, it's kind of like hard to see whether this person is stoned or they are unable to perform their duties. So that was the argument. However, the court came to the conclusion that it is unfortunate that the Prince case did not extend this protection to employees who would be faced with such a situation.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I hope that answers the question of this mother
Yeah.
in dealing with this with her 16-year-old son. Thank you, Palesa.
So thank you so much, Est-Marie.
Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please remember to like and subscribe to get updates on our new podcasts.